We hit them hard last night after they launched. They launched a couple of drones and one rocket, one missile, and at ships, because they were in the strait, which they have every right to be. We're going to hit them hard tonight. But we'll see how it all works out. No, I'm not happy with them. You know? We don't want them to have nuclear weapons. And it's denuking or denuclearization. And they'll agree on everything, and then they'll go and have a news conference and say, we never even talked about it. They're cuckoo. There's something wrong with these people.
Indeed. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo joins me now. We've been saying this for years, and so is the president, in fairness to him. Is this just another negotiating tactic, playing hardball like this? Would he prefer a deal, or is he ready to really finish the job, in the words of General Keane and others?
Well, unfortunately, I think the short answer to that is there's going to be no option but to finish the job. That will be the requirement. The Iranians are no more going to make a deal than a man in the moon. I mean, it is foolishness to believe you're going to get a negotiated solution that the Iranians are actually going to live up to. And I think President Trump actually knows that. So I don't fault him for trying to find that path. But to think they've changed their stripes after 50 years of terror, 50 years of trying to destroy Israel and the United States of America, I think is just naive. And so my expectation is that this will continue and that President Trump will do the necessary to protect America and to reopen the strait in a way that does deny them the money and resources to rebuild their nuclear program, which has been at the core of President Trump's objective since the beginning of this, since Midnight Hammer, frankly.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Secretary, it does appear that there is this split, if not one, maybe several splits within the people who are tangentially running Iran right now. Could it be that the president is trying to perhaps appeal to those who are slightly more moderate to make a deal, or is that just is that just Pollyannish, that kind of thinking?
Yeah, look, I've never seen an Iranian moderate. They to me, they feel a bit like unicorns. We often talk about them, but nobody ever actually meets one.
Mm-hmm.
These are all political Islamists who want to destroy the United States of America. And while they may choose different tactics from time to time, that is, hey, let's slow roll them, let's negotiate, no, let's go bomb them. So different factions may have different tactical decisions. Strategically, there's not an inch of difference amongst them. They want the IRGC to remain in control. They want to dominate the Middle East, destroy Israel and the United States of America. So to try and find that elusive Iranian who's going to both have the power inside of Iran and be able to cut a deal, I think is as near a zero probability event as you can possibly imagine.
All right. Next one, Mr. Secretary. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has asked Trump not to sell the F-35 fighter jets to Turkey. Listen.
It's a regime that's infected with the Muslim Brotherhood, which hates the United States. He harbors Hamas, the Hamas terrorists. He supports them. He finances them. It would destroy the power balance in the Middle East. When you're given that power, you're going to see aggression in its wake. I wouldn't do that.
Mr. Secretary, the question really comes down to one of trust. And do you trust Erdogan, a man who, as the Prime Minister just said, supports Hamas, a man who appeared to be playing footsies at times with ISIS back when they were controlling large parts of the Middle East? I mean, do you trust him with an F-35?
So I've worked on this project for a long time. Turkey is a very complicated NATO partner. We should be mindful.
Right.
And who provides enormous assistance to us in the NATO exercises and operations. So we shouldn't underestimate that. Having said that, you'll recall in the first term, we pulled the Turks out of the F-35 program for precisely the reason that they had Russian air defense systems called the S-400. And we could not permit the risk to our aircraft and our technology and software to be connected to a Russian anti-aircraft system, right? An S-400 missile system. I don't think there's any change to that. The Turks have refused continuously to give up that S-400 system, in spite of the fact we offer them a better option from the United States at a very good price. So I think we have to be very careful, not just with the F-35, but transfer of all technologies to countries who have chosen Russian technology systems as their basic infrastructure. And that's a real risk to the United States of America if we should do that.
That was a very clear explanation of the situation. Mike Pompeo, great to see you, my friend. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.